We are learning some more disturbing and I will just say incredibly gruesome details about the murder case against the singer David tonight. And this is thanks to a brief that was filed by Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman in connection with a status hearing earlier today. And I will warn you right now, some of what you're about to hear is very graphic.
We just got a huge update in the David case. The preliminary hearing got pushed back to May 26th, and that shift is raising eyebrows. At first, it seemed like the defense was moving quick and ready to handle everything. But now, the vibe changed fast. They're asking for extra time on that fast-track preliminary hearing because it's starting to look like they didn't fully grasp how deep this situation really goes. The amount of evidence? Way more than expected, and it's clearly not something you can skim through overnight. Now, they're basically saying they need more time to go through every detail and really break it all down. We just got a huge update in the David case. The preliminary hearing got pushed back to May 26th, and that shift is raising eyebrows. At first, it seemed like the defense was moving quick and ready to handle everything. But now, the vibe changed fast. They're asking for extra time on that fast-track preliminary hearing because it's starting to look like they didn't fully grasp how deep this situation really goes. The amount of evidence? Way more than expected, and it's clearly not something you can skim through overnight. Now they're basically saying they need more time to go through every detail and really break it all down. Because remember, we're talking about a massive amount of data here. Apparently 40 terabytes. That's not small at all. Prosecutors are pointing to surveillance footage, text messages, Tesla photos, Amazon delivery records, and even DNA evidence found in David's garage, which they claim ties him directly to the case.
The video of David's Tesla being drove for the last time before Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found has just been released. Now we know that prosecutors are alleging that David is the last one that drove and parked that Tesla before he left on tour on July 29th of 2025. Prosecutors are alleging that they have video footage evidence of this and also other evidence to prove that David was the last person to park this Tesla.
That's a heavy stack of material, and it's getting serious fast. This isn't just another update. This is a major development that's turning heads everywhere. Now here's where it gets even more intense. Prosecutors say that on April 23rd, the platinum-selling artist was allegedly involved in the fatal attack of Celeste at a home in the Hollywood Hills on that same date. Then things reportedly didn't stop there. According to what's being presented, they claim the body was later handled inside the garage using different items before being placed into a vehicle. On top of that, they say there were attempts to mislead friends who noticed a strange odor, which adds another layer to the situation. This is the narrative prosecutors are laying out in court, detailed across 9 pages in a preliminary hearing brief filed Wednesday and now public, and it keeps unfolding.
You're saying that David publicly described Celeste Rivas to his face?
Prosecutors also claim surveillance video shows the singer driving his Tesla on July 29th, 2025. They say he parked it around the corner from his rental home before heading out on tour. According to their claims, footage shows him moving the car himself, from the garage out to the street, where it eventually sat long enough to be impounded for weeks, maybe even months. That detail is now part of the timeline they're building, and it's getting a lot of attention. Prosecutors are also alleging the victim was left inside the vehicle for a long stretch of time, and that David misled friends, business associates, and others who started noticing a strange odor coming from around his home and car. That detail alone is raising serious questions, and it's becoming a key part of what they're presenting. At the court hearing on Wednesday, David sat quietly in an orange jail uniform, while his lawyer, Blair Burke, pushed back hard. Burke argued that the evidence brief being shared is way too one-sided and could seriously affect the jury pool if this goes to trial. He even asked the court to seal the documents to keep them out of public view. But after hearing both sides, Judge Amito shut that down and denied the request. That said, the judge did agree to delay the preliminary hearing for a few more weeks, moving it to May 26th. So now the defense is still pushing the idea that this evidence shouldn't be out in public, saying it could influence potential jurors before the case even begins. At the same time, they're pointing out how major some of these claims are, especially talk about DNA evidence and surveillance footage, which could play a huge role if everything gets confirmed.
And this one wasn't released by the cops, it was released by the private investigator Steve Fisher, who has claimed he had this video for months from a Ring camera.
Burke's situation is getting serious, and prosecutors are laying out claims about how this all started. They say he met Rivas when she was underage, and that Riverside County officials contacted him in February 2024 to inform him of her age after she was reported missing by her family. Even after speaking with law enforcement, prosecutors allege he kept pursuing contact, which is now a major focus in the case. According to those claims, he allegedly drove her back to her home in Lake Elsinore, south of LA, and even paid a student from her junior high school around $1,000 to deliver a cell phone he bought for her so they could stay in touch. That detail is drawing a lot of attention, especially with rumors going around suggesting the money was meant to keep things quiet, but prosecutors are framing it as payment tied to the phone itself. It doesn't stop there. Prosecutors also say text messages recovered between Burke and Rivas include references to explicit photographs, which adds another intense layer to these allegations. One message, reportedly sent by Rivas and pulled from Burke's iCloud, reads, "Burke reportedly broke up with Rivas on November 24th, but even after that, the communication didn't stop." According to the new filing, things actually got more heated, with prosecutors describing a long and intense argument between them through text messages on the night she was last seen alive. Those messages are said to show rising tension, including signs of jealousy connected to his interactions with other women. Prosecutors claim Rivas believed there was still a future between them, and when that didn't line up with what she was seeing, things escalated fast. They allege she became extremely upset and even threatened to expose details about the relationship that could seriously damage his career and reputation.
It's still very possible that police do have other video footage that maybe this PI doesn't have, because neighbors have reported that David's car kept moving around for a while. This random YouTuber caught David's Tesla in the same exact spot it would later be towed from, and Celeste would be found on May 14th of 2025.
The situation, as described, paints a picture of emotions running high and conflict building right before everything took a turn. Then there's the timeline prosecutors are laying out. They say Burke arranged an Uber to pick Rivas up from Lake Elsinore on April 23, 2025. During the ride, they claim he was texting her, and records allegedly show the driver dropped her off at the home around 10:10 p.m. Not long after, at around 10:30, Burke reportedly sent more messages asking where she was, adding another layer to the sequence of events they're presenting. So here's the timeline that's raising a lot of questions. She was dropped off around 10:10 p.m. and then by 10:30 p.m., he's already texting asking where she is. That quick gap is exactly what prosecutors are focusing on. They believe she didn't just leave on her own, and they're pushing the idea that this moment could be tied to something much deeper. Prosecutors claim this could point to a premeditated effort to cover up what really happened during that short window of time. They argue he may have acted to stop certain information from coming out, especially after she allegedly made threats shortly after arriving at the home. According to their claims, a violent incident followed, and they say he didn't seek any help afterward, which is a major part of their argument. It gets even more serious from there. Prosecutors allege he later texted and called her phone to make it seem like she had left, asking where she was as if he didn't know. They describe these moves as calculated and misleading, meant to create a false trail. They also claim she was left in his car, calling it a deliberate attempt to hide evidence. And then there's the trip that's getting attention. Prosecutors say he drove out toward the Lake area in Santa Barbara County to dispose of her belongings, which they argue explains that mysterious trip. That detail is now being used to support their claim that there was an effort to cover things up after everything unfolded. According to prosecutors, he returned home the next morning and went on with normal plans, even attending a radio interview. But right after that, things take a sharp turn. They claim he ordered a shovel from Home Depot, delivered through Postmates on April 24th, followed by more items like tools, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool ordered through Amazon in early May.
On top of this, Steve Fisher also uploaded photos of Amazon packages that were right on David's doorstep outside of his house that have the same fake name of Victoria Mendez that prosecutors are alleging he used to order the burn cage, the inflatable pool, the chainsaws, the body bag, the trash bags, and everything.
If these details hold up in court, that's going to raise some serious concerns. It doesn't stop there. Based on what's being alleged, Burke may have made some of these purchases using a different name. Victor Mendez. Prosecutors claim he also made multiple trips back to Santa Barbara County, which is now being closely examined. The filing even alleges he ordered a burn cage under that same name, suggesting it could have been intended to destroy evidence, which is a major accusation. Then there's the forensic side of things. Prosecutors say materials and tools found in his garage, including pieces connected to that blue inflatable pool, are part of the evidence. Reports claim blue plastic fragments were recovered and later matched by the LAPD forensic lab to items tied to the case. On top of that, prosecutors allege there were attempts to alter identifying features, adding even more weight to what they're presenting in court. When investigators searched his rental home, prosecutors say forensic evidence from the garage was linked directly to the victim. They report that DNA evidence was found in that space, which is now a major part of what's being examined in this case. And it doesn't end there. According to reports, a California Department of Transportation worker also found her passport card off a highway in Santa Barbara County on January 26th, adding another unexpected piece to the puzzle. Back in court, his lawyer made it clear they need more time to go through all the discovery. When the judge pressed him on it, he confirmed, saying, "Yes, Your Honor," emphasizing just how much material they're dealing with. Meanwhile, prosecutors are pointing to surveillance footage showing someone driving the Tesla to the location where it was later found. But here's where things get confusing. The footage itself isn't crystal clear, and some are questioning what it actually shows. There's mention of a driver with longer hair wearing a red jersey, which sparked debate.
But we all know that Steve Fisher has been talking about this video for months, and he has always said that David was not the last person that drove this Tesla, and also alluded to the fact that it was David's best friend Neo, and was constantly calling him out.
A private investigator, Steve Fisher, is claiming he believes it could be someone else, possibly Nia, who also has longer hair and was seen in a red jersey. But prosecutors are standing firm, saying the person behind the wheel was David, and that detail is now being heavily disputed. So yeah, there's clearly a difference in opinion here, and it's getting more intense by the day. There's now a real dispute over how much of this information should actually be public. The judge stepped in and agreed to place a protective order on the search warrants, which is raising big questions about transparency in this case. On top of that, David's defense team even tried to get the main brief sealed, showing just how concerned they are about what's getting out. What stands out is how quiet the defense has been. For the past 7 months, they haven't made a single public statement backing their client, and now it looks like they're worried the public is already forming a negative opinion. But here's the thing, information is still getting out, and headlines and videos are spreading fast no matter what. Now, looking at what's being discussed in that brief, it goes deep. It reportedly includes descriptions of evidence, including sensitive details about the victim, along with text messages between the victim and the defendant that reflect the nature of their relationship. There are also references to a message from March 2025 where she expressed wanting more for herself, showing possible tension. And it keeps building.
And it seems like after prosecutors said that they believe David was the last person to drive the Tesla, that this private investigator had different thoughts. And he released this video. He also said, now that the prosecution has released a briefing for the preliminary hearing in the David case, we are releasing the surveillance footage of the Tesla being moved on July 29th.
The brief also points to cellular activity and communication data pulled from the defendant's iPhone and Tesla, mapping out movements between April 22nd and April 24th, including a late-night trip to Santa Barbara County. All of this is now part of what's being examined, and it's adding more layers to an already complicated case. There's more being laid out, and it's getting even heavier. Prosecutors point to surveillance footage showing the defendant driving the Tesla on July 29th for what they say was the last time before parking it and leaving for a tour. They also claim bloodstains collected from the garage match the victim's profile, which is a major piece of forensic evidence. On top of that, they're bringing up Amazon purchases, Postmates deliveries, and even Uber records to build out the full timeline. Now here's what prosecutors are really focusing on. They're describing what they believe was an attempt to get rid of evidence. According to the claims, a shovel was ordered from Home Depot on May 1st. Then on May 5th, 2 chainsaws were allegedly delivered through Amazon. Not long after, they say a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool were also delivered. And once again, they claim these orders were placed using a different name, which adds another layer to the situation. It keeps going. Prosecutors allege that on May 8th, he drove back to the same area in Santa Barbara County, leaving his home late at night around 11:30 p.m. They say he returned to that same isolated location again on May 31st, an area off State Route 154, where the victim's identification was later found on January 26th.
The driver is light-skinned with long hair, wearing a red jersey. Even though he didn't name Neo by name, we all know that he is talking about Neo because the last photo of David and Neo that was taken the night before the Tesla was parked for the last time, Neo had on this red jersey.
Then on July 7th, they claim a burn cage was ordered and delivered, which they argue could be tied to destroying evidence. And now everything is building toward what could be a major turning point in this case. The preliminary hearing set for May 26th is where prosecutors are expected to lay out this entire timeline in detail, piece by piece, right in front of the court. This is where the judge will decide if there's enough evidence for the case to move forward to a full trial. And with everything that's been alleged so far, all eyes are locked in. The defense, on the other hand, is clearly trying to slow things down and control what gets seen by the public. They're pushing hard to limit exposure to the evidence, arguing it could shape opinions before a jury is even selected. But with so many details already circulating, it's getting harder to contain the narrative. At this stage, nothing has been proven in court yet, but the amount of claims, data, and reported evidence being discussed is massive. If this all plays out in court the way prosecutors are presenting it, this case could take a serious turn very fast, and May 26th might be the date where everything starts to shift. What makes this situation even more intense is how many moving parts are still being debated. On one side, prosecutors are stacking up digital records, forensic findings, and a detailed timeline they say all connects. On the other side, the defense is pushing back, questioning how this evidence is being presented and whether it's being taken out of context. That clash is only getting louder as the hearing gets closer. There's also growing attention on how key pieces of evidence will actually hold up under scrutiny. Things like DNA results, surveillance footage, and phone data might sound strong on paper, but in court, every detail gets challenged. The defense is expected to dig into how that evidence was collected, handled, and interpreted, which could shift how it's viewed completely.
This is another interesting thing. In this brief made by prosecutors that was released last night, it said that David lied to friends and business associates and others who noticed the strong smell of decay in or around his home and vehicle before leaving on his concert tour at the end of July. It went on to say that he parked his Tesla on the street around the corner from his home.
And with so much already public, the pressure is building from every direction. Media coverage, online reactions, and leaked details are all shaping how people see this case before it even reaches trial. That tension between public perception and what can actually be proven in court is becoming a huge factor, and it's only going to get more intense from here. Another big factor here is the timeline itself, because that's what everything seems to revolve around. Prosecutors are trying to line up every movement, every message, and every purchase into one clear sequence they say tells the full story. From the night she arrived, to the late-night trips, to the orders placed in the days after, it's all being connected step by step. But the defense is expected to challenge that hard. They could argue that a timeline can look convincing on paper while still missing key context. Just because events happened in a certain order doesn't automatically prove intent, and that's likely going to be a major point of tension in court. Every gap, every unclear moment, and every assumption is going to be questioned. What really stands out is how much of this case depends on interpretation. The same set of actions could be viewed in completely different ways, depending on how the evidence is framed. And that's exactly where things could get unpredictable, because once both sides start breaking it all down in court, the narrative could shift in ways people aren't expecting. Prosecutors are claiming that major steps were taken to hide and get rid of evidence, saying the actions point to an attempt to manage the scene and cover everything up. They're arguing this wasn't random at all, but something much more calculated, with specific moves made to conceal what happened. At the same time, it's becoming clear the defense may not have been ready to move as fast as things were going. The delay speaks loud, and some are saying they didn't want this hearing happening so soon because of how much is stacked in front of them right now. Now all eyes are on May 26th, with the preliminary hearing officially set. What happens next could seriously change everything in this case, and the stakes couldn't be higher. If you've been following this, drop your thoughts below, hit like, subscribe, and share this with others, because this story is far from over.